Hey, what's up guys? John here. Now Russia's ruble is the most valuable and strongest currency in the entire world. Think about how it's almost comical what just happened. America thought we had so much power, so much authority that we could go ahead and dictate and determine other countries, their currency, their value, and what ultimately happened. They took a short-term fall, a real big fall in Russia. However, what ultimately happened is they realized just how strong they were, and their currency is skyrocketing. Meanwhile, large corporations here are exiting that area, right? They're exiting entirely. And so what's ultimately happening is we are being exposed for just how strong of a country we really are. And we've made in my opinion, we made a massive mistake with handling things the way that we did, because ultimately now other countries around the world could say, hey, if they could do that to them, they might do that to us. Is it really wise to have all of our eggs in one basket, or should we diversify into other currencies, into gold, into anything, of commodities, metals, anything, right? Should we put all of our money, all of our risk inside the USD? Would simply, America, we're just printing more and more and more money, selling our debt, and ultimately we're creating less and less value for the global economy. I mean, we're shutting off our oil, we're shutting out most of our exports. We export very little in relation to what we did 20, 30 years ago. We're losing our authority as a world-leading superpower. There's no doubt about that. Russia's ruble is the strongest currency in the world this year. The Russian ruble is the best performing currency in the world this year. 2 months after the ruble fell to less than a penny amid the swiftest, toughest economic sanctions in modern history, Russia's currency has mounted a stunning turnaround. The ruble has jumped 40% against the dollar since January. It's an unusual situation. Normally, a country facing international sanctions and a major military conflict would see investors fleeing and a steady outflow of capital, causing the currency to drop. But Russia's unusually aggressive measures to keep money from leaving the country, as well as the effectiveness of Western sanctions, are working to create demand for rubles, effectively pushing up its value. It also means that Russia is partially insulated from the punishing economic penalties imposed by Western nations after its invasion of Ukraine, although how long that protection will last is uncertain. The main reason for the country's recovery is soaring commodity prices after Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24th. Already high oil and natural gas prices rose even further. Commodity prices are currently sky high, and even though there's a drop in the volume of Russian exports due to embargoes and sanctions, the increase in commodity prices more than compensates for these drops. Russia is pulling nearly $20 billion a month from energy exports since the end of March. Many foreign buyers have complied with the demand to pay for energy in rubles, right? So they're doing these massive, massive deals outside of the US dollar. We're going to be stepping into a situation over the next few years, next 5, 10 years, according to Stanley Druckenmiller, who partnered with George Soros, and they effectively bankrupted broke the Bank of England. They made $1 billion plus overnight many years ago. And he's saying that the US dollar is not going to have reserve currency status in the next decade. And that was before all of this craziness and hectic situations that are unfolding between US and Russia. So I'm agreeing with him. I think we're going to lose a lot of authority, and I think countries all over the world are questioning just how strong the dollar really is. At the same time, Western sanctions and a wave of businesses leaving the country have led to the drop of imports. In April, Russia's account surplus, the difference between exports and imports, rose a record $37 billion. We have this coincidence that as imports have collapsed, exports are soaring. Russia's central bank has also propped up the ruble with strict capital controls that make it harder to convert it into other currencies. That includes a ban on foreign holders of Russian stock and bonds taking dividend payments out of our country. And what are we threatening to do? Liquidate some luxury mansions from some Russian oligarchs and things like that here? I mean, do you think that actually does anything? It's a big question, or do you think it's all theater? That used to be quite a significant source of outflows for currency from Russia. Now that channel is closed. Meanwhile, Russia exporters are required to convert half of their excess revenues into rubles, creating demand for the currency. That figure was 80% until this week when it dropped 50%. On top of that, Orlova noted it's extremely difficult for foreign companies to sell their Russian investments, another obstacle to capital flight. Although we are seeing these announcements that Western companies are leaving Russia, quite often they simply have to hand over their stakes in their local partners. It doesn't actually mean they are being paid a fair price for their stakes. So they are not moving large amounts of cash out of the country. All these factors are creating strong demand for rubles. While this is not a free market-determined exchange rate, ruble stability is at the same time real in the sense that it's driven by Russian all-time high current accounts inflows. How long will it last? The ruble rally has been so strong that it's creating some challenges for Russia's central bank, which this week took steps to bring its currency closer to historic levels. Russia's central bank is trying to loosen capital controls because it feels the ruble is too strong. But the central bank is in a tough spot. If they continue loosening, they may open up the floodgates of capital flows out of the country. In the previous crisis, 200 billion left the country in a matter of months. And while that ruble bounce back and the strength of Russian oil exports have temporarily cushioned the economy from sanctions, that's unlikely to last. Well, you look at the connections in between Russia, Saudi Arabia, India, and China, and all the deals that they are doing, whether it be through in yuan or whether it be in rubles, they're doing their own deals. And so I believe that them banning the exports of oil, or us banning the exports of oil from Russia to America, what is that ultimately going to do? It's going to allow Russia to have that much more of a supply, enabling them to want to do bigger deals and maybe even giving price breaks to other countries. If they do something like that and give them better deals, better pricing on oil, what does this mean? It means their transportation costs are going to be reduced. It means that their competitive advantage is going to be greater than America's because we're going to be paying more for oil, more for transportation. We have this inflation problem that's happening here. Everything is happening. Supply chain issues, all these problems. We're really putting ourselves in a bad spot. Another concern for Russia is that the cutoff of imports could lead to the industrial shortages, while a drop of foreign investment is expected. It drags it down the country's economic growth for years. The Institute of International Finance predicted, the IIF, expects Russia's economy to shrink 15% this year, wiping out more than a decade of economic development. Export controls, the brain drain of talent out of the country, the European shift away from Russian energy dependence, and the exceptionally unfriendly business culture with all weights on Russia's growth in the years to come. Now, if we look at America's business culture and we look at other places, how they are running their businesses, how these corporations are really growing in more and more power, they're making these dictates as to what certain levels of acceptance are. Like we're seeing all these big companies leaving, Russia taking a stand and getting involved in this, when in reality we have to ask ourselves, is that their place? Is it our place to really to intervene, to get involved? Because what I'm seeing right now, America as a whole, we are losing so much authority. Our economy is losing a lot of authority. Our country is losing a lot of authority. 50 years ago, we had so much power. We had so much control. We produced everything. Now we produce very little. We look at our education system in America. What we were 50 years ago, we were number one. Now we look at us compared to India, us compared to China, us compared to any other country, for the most part, any developed country, our education is nothing like it used to be. And we're starting to really, I think, pay the big price for that. So we're going to start losing in a big way. And I think what we did, how we handled this, just showed us how strong we really are as a country. And I think that this could actually end up blowing up in our faces, this entire situation. And I think Russia could become stronger and more powerful than ever before. What do you think about this entire situation? What do you think about the relationship that Russia is going to be forming with India and China and Saudi Arabia and all these other countries that they have such strong natural resources. They have so much money. They have so much gold. They have so much authority in the global economy in comparison to America, where we just basically consume. What do you think about it? Drop your comments below. Hit the like button. Subscribe. You're also subscribed to my second YouTube channel. It's going to be an interactive show and podcast this week where people are going to be able to call in. It's going to be really cool. Really looking forward to that. And then LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everything is in the banner. I'll catch you guys later.